Malaysia is a country of eternal summer on the lowlands. In Kuala Lumpur or in Malacca, the standard outfit is shorts, a t-shirt and flip-flops or long pants. You only wear them there in two cases, for a wedding or to an office where it is legally required. But not far from Kuala Lumpur, there's a region where putting on a jacket isn't an unpleasant duty, but actually a real pleasure. Hello, Cameron Highlands. For us Europeans, 18 degrees is normal, but for the local residents, it's truly exotic and the main reason why they escape there whenever they have free time from school and work. Welcome to the 8th episode of the series Moving to Asia. As you probably remember from the previous episode, we set off for the Cameron Highlands together with my beloved's parents. There would be nothing surprising about this, if not for the fact that my fiancé is a Malaysian of Chinese descent. That's why, instead of showing you this region from the perspective of an ordinary white tourist who is a perfect target for scams, I'll show it to you through the eyes of the locals. Well, my beloved's parents used to take their 4 children to this place in the family minivan for nearly 2 decades. They know every corner here, so their tips can be worth their weight in gold. And if you missed the previous parts, it's not a problem. You'll find a link to the entire playlist in the pinned comment. But now, let's not waste any more time on reminders and let's start exactly where we finished part 7, which means we've reached Cameron Valley. The views are stunning, but it's also the first place where a tourist can easily lose money. Most people buy a ticket, go down, and shop at the expensive company store. Thanks to my fiancé's dad, we know better.
We're at an altitude of 1,260 meters. We stopped for a moment to check out a place called Baharat, or something like that. But Dad says there's no point in going all the way in and paying because it's 20 ringgit per person. It's not a fortune. And if you want, of course, you can come in and see how the tea is produced, and they'll also try to get you to buy some tea. But what you probably won't hear from other vlogs is that, just like Dad said, you can get the same tea. You can buy it way cheaper in any supermarket pretty much anywhere in Malaysia, and even at the airport it's cheaper than what they'll sell you here. I was going to say pushed it on you, which may sound harsh. Let me know in the comments, do you think this is a ripoff? Because the money goes directly to the employees or to the owners. Exactly, so we'll go down for a moment, but we won't pay for entry, and that's also because we'll go up again in a moment. And a similar tea production, and where strawberries grow, it's free. However, this place is simply the first one on the way, and here most tourists will fall for it.
So they'll buy extremely overpriced tea.
And later they'll be surprised if they find it in a supermarket, if they look in those roadside ones. And also, my beloved's dad used to have a supermarket, 1, 2, 3, something like that, and his brother has one too. And he said that we can actually buy that tea.
Umamek.
A total fraction of the price they would normally charge us here. Well, when it comes to the trip itself, of course, we chose the scenic route, the one with the views. It's the so-called old road. But if you want to drive here in a rented car, well, for most people it depends. Yes, some people use the new highway. It's faster, not shorter. Actually, it's longer, but you can definitely get here much quicker.
Although for a Polish driver, who's a master at dodging potholes and avoiding maniacs overtaking on the wrong side, this kind of route is still a piece of cake.
The scenic route is nice. It takes longer to drive, but there are fewer kilometers. It's not super demanding, but it's definitely a bit annoying because there are constant twists and turns up and down all the time. So we decided that we'll take the scenic route one way and then come back by highway, because there's no point in struggling and going off the main road. So from these mountains we're going to see how tea grows.
But let's be honest, all those curves and the tough climb are forgotten when you have a view like this in front of you. What looks like a huge rippled emerald carpet are plantations belonging to Bharat Grub, the second largest tea giant in Malaysia. And here's an interesting fact for you. These low bushes are actually Camellia sinensis trees. If the planters stopped trimming them even for a moment, each of these, let's call them bushes, would shoot up several meters high. They are kept at about 1 meter high just so that pickers can easily pluck the youngest, most valuable leaves at the top. So basically, you're looking at a giant functional bonsai forest that produces millions of cups of tea every year.
But I have to admit, the view is amazing. Here, if we zoom in, you can see this nice tiny path. It looks absolutely magical, like something out of a fairy tale. I would say you could see things like this in the Moomins sometimes, if I remember correctly. It's just beautiful, almost unimaginably beautiful.
We spent some time here, but it's time to move on. The road climbs steeper and steeper, the engine is working hard, and we're escaping the heat even more effectively. Looking through the window, you can see that this isn't exactly a land flowing with milk and honey, at least not for everyone. We pass a lot of abandoned buildings and faded signs. You can see that many businesses that once tried to attract tourists have lost the fight for customers and now stand as ruins. You're by the road.
We are at an altitude of 1,360 meters, and we've arrived at a place called
Cameron Lavender Garden.
My parents were here recently, so we decided to visit as well, but on the way we also saw something called Siha Beach Flora. If I remember correctly, the entrance ticket there costs 50
ringgit per person.
Plus you have to pay extra for parking. It looks nice, but from the outside it's completely covered up. And here, my parents said it's okay. The flowers are nice, but it's not worth that amount. Maybe just for a photo session. From what we saw on Google, it looks pretty okay. But is it worth it? Well, you can judge for yourselves. Here, the family decided that it's not worth it, that it's not profitable. There are nicer places you can visit for less money. Yes, that's exactly what we're going to do. Unless you're here, you have a lot of time, you have a few days, then you definitely can.
Then the entrance fee is 20 ringgit, which is about 18 zloty. Is that a lot? Well, for the chance to take photos like that, probably not, although I have to warn you, because botanically, in this humid climate, real lavender doesn't actually grow. What you see here is mostly Mona, lavender and sage, but you know what? In the photos it looks almost just as good.
I have to admit it's not ugly here, and besides lavender there are a lot more other flowers, so
maybe
since they were right, since they had been to each of those places, that it doesn't make sense to pay 50 per person there. And here there are just as many flowers. Back there behind me, here you can see some decoration in the form of an old Morris vehicle. And there, let's take memories. Something else for photos and lots of beautiful, beautiful, beautiful flowers. So, did you learn something that it doesn't necessarily have to be profitable, but you can still visit this place? From what I saw on Google, it's beautiful there too, so it depends on your preference.
It was only later that I googled what kind of car it was, and as it turns out, it's a Morris Minor 1000. For many, it's just a purple prop for selfies, but this car didn't end up here by accident. Remember, Cameron Highlands is a former station created by the British who used to escape here from the tropical heat of the lowlands. This classic from the 60s is like an automotive monument to those times. A reminder that tea, strawberries and this cool climate are a colonial legacy of the flowers of Little England. There are plenty of flowers here. Right next to the purple, we're struck by red, pink and deep blue. What you see here are geraniums and delphiniums. For us in Poland, it's a common sight, but here, in the heart of Asia, it's an absolute botanical rarity. Both of these plants would wither in a single day in the tropical heat of the lowlands. They only grow here in the mountain coolness. And that's no coincidence. The British settlers brought them here purely out of sentiment, creating their own Little England right here. Especially these blue delphiniums, a classic of country gardens, make it easy to forget that we're in the state of Penang and not in the rainy county of Devon.
It moves a little, so it's a bit strange to walk on, but here you can even stop. You see, you could have a nice photo session. This tree looks totally fake because, wait, it is fake. Okay, that makes sense. So maybe that one over there is fake too. But these ones are really soft and you can see real leaves and the whole thing stretches over there. Here, okay, there. And as I emphasized, the smell is first class.
And for a botanical dessert, something that looks like a plush toy left in the garden, that's the acalypha, commonly called cat's tail or red caterpillar. This plant just begs to be touched. These red tassels are incredibly soft and super fluffy. Nature in the Cameron Highlands takes care not only of the views, but also makes sure there's something to pet.
By the way, I wanted to mention that here at this altitude, it's a chilling, well, is it chilling, 24 degrees Celsius. I'm not sweating like a rat anymore. It's definitely much nicer. So now we're going for a coffee at a little cafe here.
waiting for our purple order. I have a moment to look around from the terrace, and here the view clashes a bit with the candy-like vibe. We've already had England, so now it's time for the budget version of the Netherlands. These little windmills were probably meant to add some European flair, but you can see that the local climate shows no mercy. The paint is peeling, rust is eating away at the metal. It's a bit like a worn-out Disneyland, and further on, instead of pristine nature, you'll see a sea of white plastic. That's the harsh truth. Cameron Highlands is not just a nature reserve, but a huge food factory. It may not be the most beautiful view to have with your coffee, but at least it's honest. Our order has already arrived, and just look at this table. Lavender chocolate cake, lavender strawberry cake, lavender cupcakes, and even lavender cheesecake. Do you think that's too much? Not at all. And how about some lavender tea with a few strawberries and, well, not lavender coffee?
In this cafe, I had lavender flavored coffee, and honestly, I don't recommend it, my friends, because it's no wonder that you can only get coffee with the taste and smell of lavender here. I don't recommend it, unless you just want to try it for the experience. I drank the whole thing because, as they say, I paid for it, so I had to, but I won't do it again. The cakes were just so-so too, although they weren't too sweet, and the tea was also just so-so. The only thing was that the cheesecake was reasonably good, and you can go for the cheesecake. The price, of course, was quite high.
Moving on, the atmosphere does a flip again. From an English tea party, we quickly move right into the middle of Asian towers, and we come across a pond full of colorful koi fish.
We made some food. Look, we have something like this, and we're going to feed the fish. Let's see how they handle it.
It's worth spending a few ringgits here on fish food because it's a lot of fun, but this place also has a deeper meaning. In Chinese culture, the word for fish sounds the same as the word for abundance or wealth. That's why this crowd of fish in the water is not just a tourist attraction, but also a symbol meant to bring the owners of this place endless profits. And looking at how these fish fight for every pellet, it seems to be working because the business is just as intense.
Here we have a black, white, and red specimen. Over there, it's just hanging out, finding whatever it can. There's a spot to wash your hands from a funny little jug. Everything is nicely labeled. It's quite an elegant place. Considering it's 20 ringgit per person, you can really spend time here with kids or even with adults. About an hour or two, like everywhere else, some gadgets, shopping. Sienna liked it, but when she saw the price, she said there's no way, and I already see it's 90 ringgit, which isn't super expensive, but you know, with today's standards and buying similar stuff from AliExpress, you could probably get the same thing for 20. We've been walking around here for quite a while now, an hour or maybe two, I think. We're not really keeping track of time. This place is pretty big. I thought there would be a lot fewer attractions. Not attractions, flowers, things to look at for sure. You could take beautiful photos back there behind me. I definitely recommend taking souvenir photos, so it's worth visiting here. It looks nice and beautiful. There's something here, something there, but up top I thought it was just some shade, but my friends, there's more to it. Strawberries are growing everywhere.
Exactly. Strawberries in Malaysia are a luxury item. You can pick them yourself straight from the bush, although it's much more expensive than at the market. But hey, we're paying here for the experience and a good time.
That's how these strawberries grow here. You can see that most of the fruits are still small. Some have grown a bit more, some a bit less. See? Actually, when it comes to these strawberries, they're not as sweet as the European ones. Maybe they're less modified, it's hard to say. I'm not a GMO expert, but supposedly they're natural, right? Well, maybe to some extent, a bit more natural. And here we already have ripe strawberries. They look beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Here you have 10 ringgits. This time we stopped at a place called Watercress Valley because apparently it's worth it. I don't know yet how much the spot costs, but that's why we're here.
To check it out. What grows further over there is just regular lettuce, but that's closer to us. That's watercress growing here in a hydroponics system, fed with pure mountain water. Interestingly, when we arrived here, the place seemed completely forgotten by the world.
So it's just a restaurant, and as they emphasized on the sign, there's no public restroom.
Thanks to our internet, Sally, we checked this place in a second and were baffled. 2.9 stars on TripAdvisor. In the world of gastronomy, that usually means run and don't look back. And since we weren't very hungry anyway, we decided not to tempt fate and politely declined. However, when I look at the pictures online now, especially that traditional steamboat cooked over charcoal and those wonderful views from the terrace, it does look tempting, but maybe next time? So if any of you have been here and survived or dared to try it, be sure to let me know in the comments whether those 2.9 stars were a system error or the harsh truth.
We were just passing by to check out a market. As you can see, there aren't a lot of tourists here. It's really peaceful. You can see that most of the people here are locals from Mail.
Without others?
No white faces at all. Maybe just one person, but in fact it's empty. Pretty deserted, but it's 4:30 post-meridium. It's Monday, so let's see what's here. We saw some sea coconut. Maybe we'll try something black like that. Here you can see that a kilogram of strawberries costs 15 ringgit. So the price is much better than it was there. If I remember correctly,
the number of stalls and the selection is huge, from fresh red tomatoes to mountains of purple sweet potatoes. But the king is jagung susu, white corn so sweet and juicy that you can eat it raw.
So we're just walking around this market. You can see that it's 19 degrees here, feels like 19 degrees. It's really pleasant after all. We are
in the tropics
basically, but at this altitude it's really pleasant and comfortable. There's not much sun right now either, for sure. These are white strawberries.
Apparently they're sweet.
I don't know how, but I guess we won't be buying these anymore because we already have a 2-kilogram bag of regular strawberries over there. So, just an interesting fact.
And right next to it, there's something that looks like an oversized, rather ugly white cucumber with blisters. That's peria putti, which is a white bitter melon. If you're traumatized after trying the classic green one, don't worry. The white variety is a lighter version. It's much less bitter, crunchier and juicier. This fruit is mild enough that in Asia, especially here in Malaysia and Taiwan, it's even eaten raw. Thin slices, a bit of honey or soy sauce, and you've got a quick salad. But eating is one thing and health is another. The locals treat it like a natural medicine cabinet, calling it plant insulin because it regulates blood sugar so well, and thanks to its powerful dose of vitamin C, it works wonders for the skin. Right next to it are more treasures. These yellow fruits are bird nest dragon fruit, which is the yellow variety of dragon fruit. Don't let their appearance fool you. Inside, they're much sweeter and more aromatic than the classic pink ones we know from supermarkets. They are quite pricey, but this is the absolute premium version, and next to them is Cameron avocado. Malaysia is associated with jungles, but the climate here is so unique that avocados grow excellently. They're buttery, creamy, and in no way inferior to those from South America. So if you're looking for healthy souvenirs, something like this is a perfect choice. And speaking of vitamins, you should definitely go for these small tangerines. They're called limo madu, where madu means honey. And that's not just a marketing trick. They really are very sweet, just like real honey. Next to them, the green ones are limo barley, which is the local pomelo. These also grow here and they're perfect for refreshment, although peeling them without a knife is a real challenge for the patient.
There's something there called Cameron apple, which actually looks like this when you cut it open and tastes, let me tell you. At the end, it tastes a bit like a combination of plums.
And it's no wonder, because even though they call it Cameron apple here, it's actually pepino. Interestingly, botanically, it's a cousin of the potato and tomato. It comes from the Andes, so the cool climate here suits it perfectly. Tasty, refreshing, and it's definitely not an apple. But after a whole day full of experiences, it's time to head back to base in Cameron Highlands. Instead of expensive hotels, the homestay option prevails, which in practice usually means renting an entire apartment in one of the large apartment complexes.
We entered this little apartment, but honestly, we didn't really like it. My wife said that this is a typical Malaya house, meaning a Malaysian home. Well, you can clearly see that these walls haven't been painted in a really long time. Here, I don't know if the camera will catch it, but there's something yellow over there. There are stains, there are some patches, so honestly, it doesn't look very good. The view is also, I'll go out there in a moment, maybe to the other balcony, and I'll show you the view. But there are 3 bedrooms here. Oh, there's mold there, there's mold. I also saw mold in the bathroom. There's another bedroom there, so we took the 3rd one, let's say the main one. This one also has a bathroom and the other one has a bathroom too. The view isn't the most beautiful, but in the end it was cheaper because when we were looking at the prices, it really varied here. Well, this is a typical place, one for tourists.
And here's an important note for you, so you won't be surprised. You see this towel on the bed? We were lucky, there were some, even though they smelled bad. In Malaysia, it's standard in homestays that there simply aren't any towels. It's not a hotel, and in such a humid climate, washing and drying is a real nightmare, so they leave it up to the guests. You often find out about this only when you're there, stepping out of the shower. So, if you're heading to these areas and you're not staying in a 5-star hotel, your own quick-drying microfiber towel is an absolute must in your suitcase.
Well, you could say there's a little balcony, there's a place outside. You see, you don't have to look at apartments, you can admire the beautiful nature. Anyway, we're just here to spend the night, and that's the most important thing. It doesn't have to be amazing, it was supposed to be cheap, and we chose cheap. I'll show you exactly how much this thing cost. And we definitely had our eye on something else that we liked a bit more. The price was just a little higher. But there, before you clicked finish or pay on booking, the price went from about 270 to around 370. They added a cleaning fee and other charges, and also tax for each person. So it's a different story if you choose an apartment for 270 and you click buy and at the bottom it says 270, but then when you go to pay, it turns into 370. I don't like tricks like that. I mean, it's okay, but for example, in this apartment, there was nothing like that. That at the last moment, they suddenly add 100. So basically 1/3, actually more than the initial price, even more, even more than 1/3. If it was just the tax, maybe not. Well, it was more 20 per person, so that's 80 plus some cleaning fee. I think also 80, so that's even 160 more. So we decided that we don't like it, this kind of messing around, and we decided to drop it and take something else. It was the second choice, but what kind of choice is that? So you see, it's definitely big, it's huge, and it's in a great location. And definitely what can be said is that this is the first time in 2 weeks. I think when I feel that the floor is cold when I walk barefoot, because usually it's just too warm all the time, but now it's nice and cool, you can actually relax.
Well, what can I say? That's just the climate here. Moisture condenses on the walls. That's where the smell and mold in many homestays come from. Plus, there are whole highways of ants marching across the countertop. Let's put it gently, it's nothing special, but there's also a cultural curiosity. Look, this water filter has a big halal sign on it. For us, that's exotic, but here it's standard. It means that the devices, specifically the carbon filters inside, haven't come into contact with pork or alcohol during production. Thanks to this, the water is clean, not only chemically, but also religiously. For Muslims, well, it's just a pity that this religious purity of the filter didn't carry over to the rest of the apartment. We're not fans of this place, maybe it's not a disaster, but to be honest, the girls don't feel very comfortable with this, let's call it, standard of cleanliness. And if they're not happy, you know how that affects the mood of the trip? Well, but we're going to sleep soon because tomorrow another day of experiences awaits us, and in the next episode, hot pot. But I won't show you this from the perspective of an ordinary guy from a small town in Missouri. You'll see it from the side of a Chinese family from Malaysia. This is absolutely not an ordinary dinner, but a multi-generational ritual that has its own rules and meaning. We'll also go to the famous Bo Tea Center, and honestly, the tea fields there are even more beautiful than what you've seen today. Everything is done on a grand scale, but taking money from tourists also reaches a higher level there. I'll tell you exactly what to watch out for so you don't overpay. We'll also check out the local carnivorous plants, and on our way back to Kuala Lumpur, we'll find ourselves right in the middle of big politics. We'll be returning on the highway exactly on the day when the President of China, Xi Jinping, visited Malaysia. Thanks for joining us on this journey to the cooler side of Asia. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to the channel. See you next time.